Good morning, everyone. We are, as promised, as discussed, we're going to try to learn a little bit of Derech Hashem first every day. Hopefully that'll work. There's a little bit of less explaining sometimes with Psachim than there was with Erevin. So we're going to begin Derech Hashem. Derech Hashem, I'm not going to go through the entire introduction, but basically he describes this book as essentially, if you have this book, you're going to be able to understand virtually the entire Torah. It's almost like the foundational ideas that animate everything in Torah, everything in Jewish practice, and that is the idea behind this book. So it's a pretty amazing little sefer, which really encompasses everything. Not obviously, but it's worth noting from a bit of a Kabbalistic angle. Okay, so with that in mind, but he is, as we'll see today, a bit of a mix between a rationalist, someone who is like almost a student of the Rambam, as well as a Kabbalist, so a really student of the more mystical thinking, and has become like one of the main teachers of mysticism. So much so, I would just point out that the Vilna Gaon, who everyone is well aware known, said about one of his books, Mesilas Yesharim, he said, had he been alive, had the Vilna Gaon been alive when the Ramchal was alive, he would have crawled from Vilna all the way to Italy to be able to learn at his feet. So just to give you some context of his greatness. So I know most of you don't have the Sefer in front of you. I'm going to nonetheless read it because each word is precious. And I encourage you, if you have a copy, come along and bring a copy. So here we go. Kol Ish Mi'Yisrael. So we're going to start with the first section. We're skipping the introduction. The first chapter is all about God. It's a shortish chapter. And he says like this. Kol Ish Mi'Yisrael, every Jew, tzarech she'ya'amin v'yeda, has to believe and know. Ya'amin v'yeda. It's interesting. He says he has to believe and know sheyesha matzur rishon, that there is a first cause, first being, kadmon v'nitzchi, who has always been there. Kadmon meaning that not the kada meaning first, but rather was always there, v'nitzchi, and eternal. Okay, so it's interesting how he frames it, not just that we have to know this, we have to believe this and then know this. And the idea is that Emunah is, knowledge is something we work towards. Knowledge is something we have to constantly strive to have real knowledge of the fact that God is there. But sometimes we don't have that knowledge, and therefore what we always have at our disposal is Emunah. Right? First we could believe always. You always have the choice. Belief is a choice. I choose to believe something. I could choose to believe something, v'yeda, and know. So I'm striving to have this knowledge. I'm striving to affirm it, to prove it to myself. But even when I don't have that knowledge, whether it's because of my intellectual deficiencies or because of the fact that maybe emotionally there's something that's blocking me from doing so, I'm still able to choose to believe. So shiyam and v'yeda, again, that there is this being, this primal being who was always there and will always be there. V'hum shehimtzi umamtzi. And this being is something which in the past has brought about all of creation, umamtzi, and currently brings out all of creation, right? We have a belief, and the Kabbalists emphasize this idea. We're going to say in davening, HaMechadesh b'tuvo b'chol yom tzamid, that God constantly renews the world. The world was created, but God has to constantly renew the world. Rav Nachman of Breslov beautifully says that if that's the case, I don't know about you, but sometimes when you have like a new beginning, like you start Psachim, like we're going to do in a few minutes, like there's something fresh. When I was a kid, start a school, new school year, it's like, it's a new opportunity, and whatever it is. Any new thing gives you a new opportunity. If we really believe that God is recreating the world not only every day, but every moment. God has to will the world into being every moment. Then we could stop being, trapped by our past. We so constantly say like, should I do this? I tried it last time, it didn't work out. But if I truly believe that God is mamtzi komash nimtza b'metzios, that God is constantly renewing everything in the world, then we're constantly getting the new first day of school opportunity. Every new day is not connected to the past. We're not, in as much as all of creation is not stuck to the past, certainly my own history doesn't have to be stuck to the past. Why would I block myself, prevent myself from doing things if I recognize that, yesterday is not, or a moment ago is not connected to today? V'hu Eloka Baruch Hu, and this is a reference to God. Okay, Od, let's stop over here. That is Aleph. Again, a recognition that we have to believe and know, right? We're going to have to focus on both those. I have to believe and I have to know that there is a being who always was, who always will be, and God created the world but didn't stop. God is constantly renewing the world. The Baal HaTanya says that we see this in the fact that God created the world. The way that the description of the world is through speech. Why is it through speech? Because speech is something, when I finish the words, they seem to be gone, right? Like as opposed to if I built this table, it's here. But when I'm speaking, it's here and it's gone. And that's exactly the point. God wants us to recognize that the second he stops speaking, we will no longer be here. So when it says by he or, which we're actually going to reference in a moment, it's to emphasize this point that God is constantly speaking, that God is constantly willing this world to come into being, which we should recognize and appreciate, but also to recognize that it's a new world. It's a new world every moment, and it's a new me every moment as well.